the orchard, the dungeon, and the girl who never heard him calling. Chapter 2, What the Orchard Kept. After that, the days grew sharper around Elias Seldo. He noticed danger in places he had once ignored. A rider slowing near the eastern fields. A servant from Aster Hall buying apples in the market and looking twice at his face. Clerk Ven pausing too long at the Seldo farm's gate with a ledger tucked under his arm. Every ordinary thing seemed to have learned how to watch. Still, he went. At dawn, he rose to work beside Mary, carrying water, turning soil, mending fence breaks left by wind and wandering cattle. He moved through each task with his body while some hidden part of him counted the hours. Mary saw it. Of course she did. She saw everything he wished she would miss. "You're cutting crooked," she said one morning. Elias looked down at the row he had been hoeing. It bent badly near the end, drifting off like a drunk man trying to find home. He wiped his wrist across his brow. "So it is." Mary leaned on her hoe, breathing carefully. Her cough had worsened since winter, though she kept pretending it was only dust. "This girl," she said. Elias stiffened. "She has a name," Mary continued. "That is usually how trouble starts becoming real." He said nothing. Mary looked toward Aster Hall. From the fields, its windows seemed like pale eyes set high above the town. "I won't ask you to stop seeing her," she said. That surprised him enough that he turned. Mary's mouth tightened. "Not because I approve. Because you won't. And I'm tired of wasting words against locked doors. It isn't like that. It is exactly like that." He drove the hoe blade into the soil and left it standing there. "She listens to me," he said. "No one at the hall listens to her." "Not truly. And you think listening is enough to save either of you? I don't know. That, at least, is honest." The morning wind moved through the barley, making the field whisper around them. Mary stepped closer and placed her rough hand against his cheek. Elias had grown taller than her 2 years ago, but in that moment he felt like a boy again, caught stealing plums. "You have your father's heart," she said. "It runs toward what it loves and notices the cliff afterward." Elias tried to smile. "Did father run off cliffs?" "Constantly." "Did you love him anyway?" Mary's eyes changed. The answer passed over her face before she spoke. "Yes," she said. "That was the trouble." He covered her hand with his own. For a moment, the farm, the manor, the girl, the danger, all of it stood still beneath the pale morning sky. Then Mary drew away and picked up her hoe. "Finish the row straight," she said. "Doom is no excuse for bad work." Elias laughed, and she almost did too. By evening, he was at St. Ara's orchard. Maribel came late. The delay gnawed at him. He walked between the trees until his path became a trampled oval in the grass. Every crack of twig became a guard's step. Every wing beat sounded like warning. He had nearly convinced himself she would not come when she appeared through the gap in the chapel wall, breathless, cloak gathered in both hands. "I thought," he began. "I know," she said. Her hair had been pinned carefully when she left the hall, but half of it had loosened. There was a faint red mark at her wrist, as if someone had held her there too firmly. Elias saw it at once. "What happened?" She followed his gaze and pulled her sleeve down. "Nothing. Maribel. My father asked where I was yesterday." Elias felt the orchard darken around them, though the sun had not yet gone. "What did you say?" "That Lady Serapha had sent me to the chapel to deliver candles." "And did he believe you?" "He wanted to." That answer was worse than no. Maribel stepped closer, lowering her voice though there was no one nearby. He has begun speaking of Lord Halbrecht's son again. Elias knew the name. Everyone did. The Halbrechts owned the northern mills and half the wool road. Their son, Alaric, had visited Lowmere twice, both times with polished boots and a smile that seemed practiced in mirrors. Elias looked away. For marriage? Yes. The word did not fall loudly. It did not need to. It landed between them with the weight of iron. When? Elias asked. No date. Not yet. But soon enough. I told him I wasn't ready. And he listened. Maribel's laugh had no joy in it. He heard me. That is different. Elias walked to one of the bent apple trees and pressed both hands against its trunk. Bark bit into his palms. Maribel came behind him. Say something. What should I say? Anything that sounds like you haven't already buried us. He turned then. I don't have land. I don't have title. I don't have money hidden under a floorboard. I have a sick mother, 2 goats, 1 angry rooster, and a roof that leaks in 3 places. 4, if it rains from the west. Despite himself, he stared at her. She lifted her chin. You told me. He should not have laughed, but he did. The sound came out broken and brief. Maribel reached for his hand. I don't want Lord Halbrecht's son, she said. I don't want some arrangement made over wine while I sit beside a window pretending not to hear my life being traded. What do you want? The question shook slightly. Maribel looked at him as if the answer frightened her more than the marriage. You, she said. It was a simple word. Too simple for what it did. Elias closed his eyes. For one foolish second, he saw it, Maribel in the Seldo farmhouse, laughing at the rooster, sleeves rolled up, cheeks flushed from the stove heat. Maribel walking beside him through the barley. Maribel under a plain roof, not trapped by silk or watched by servants. The image was so clear it hurt. Then he opened his eyes and saw the truth again. You wouldn't survive my life, he said softly. Her face tightened. Do not decide that for me. I mean the mud. The hunger. The winter. The way people look at you when you owe them coin. The way your hands crack when there isn't enough oil. The shame of counting bread before cutting it. I know it would be hard. No. You know the word hard. You don't know the shape of it. She drew back as if he had struck the air between them. Elias regretted it at once, but he did not take it back. Love, he was learning, did not make truth gentler. Sometimes it only brought truth close enough to wound. Maribel's eyes shone, but she did not cry. And you don't know my cage, she said. You see clean sheets and full plates and think there is no hunger in that house. But I have been starving inside rooms full of food my entire life. The orchard went quiet. A crow called from the chapel roof, harsh and lonely. Elias stepped toward her. Maribel. No, her voice trembled, then steadied. You don't get to be cruel and then kind before I've had time to hate you. I don't want you to hate me. Then stop helping the world keep us apart. He had no answer for that. She wiped beneath one eye quickly, angry that even one tear had escaped. I know what I am, she said. I know what people call me. Princess. Lady. Daughter of Aster Hall. I know what my father expects. I know what the town sees when I pass in a carriage. But when I am here, with you, I can breathe without permission. Elias reached for her again. This time, she let him. He held her as carefully as he knew how. Not like something fragile. Like something precious that had chosen, impossibly, to stay. "I'm afraid," he said near her hair. "So am I. I don't know how this ends." She pulled back enough to look at him. "Then don't end it tonight." The sun sank behind the hills, leaving the orchard in a bruised purple light. They sat beneath the oldest apple tree, shoulder to shoulder, speaking in low voices. Plans came and went. Most were impossible. Some were childish. One involved Elias finding work 2 towns over and Maribel arriving there in a plain dress with stolen coins and no surname. They both knew it would fail the moment it touched daylight, yet they built it anyway for the warmth of building. "What would you call yourself?" Elias asked. "If I had no surname?" "Yes." She thought for a while. "Maribel Ara. After the chapel." "That sounds like a woman who sells bitter medicine." "It sounds free." "It does," he admitted. "And you?" "I'd keep Seldo. It's already poor enough to be harmless." She smiled and leaned her head against his shoulder. Later, when the moon had risen and the chapel stones held the last of the day's warmth, their kisses became less careful. There was urgency in them now, a knowledge that time had begun closing its hand. They clung to each other in the ruined chapel where rain had first trapped them, and though the world beyond remained unchanged, for a little while they made a smaller one from breath, touch, and whispered names. When Maribel finally left, she did not say tomorrow. She said, soon. Elias watched her vanish through the trees and hated the word for its uncertainty. The next days were uneven. Twice, Maribel could not come. Elias waited until the stars sharpened above the orchard, then returned home with cold hands and excuses Mary did not believe. On the third night, a folded scrap of paper waited beneath a loose stone near the chapel door. "Not tonight. Serapha watches me. My father has asked too many questions. I am trying. Do not think I have forgotten." There was no signature. There did not need to be. Elias read it until the paper softened at the creases. He carried it inside his shirt as he worked. The words pressed against him when he bent over the field, when he lifted feed sacks, when he knelt to mend a broken wheel spoke. "Do not think I have forgotten." But the hall had begun to move. He felt it before he understood it. Aster guards rode through the mud fields more often, claiming to inspect roads. Clerk Ven came to Mary's door with questions about grain tallies from the previous season, though his eyes kept drifting to Elias. Lady Serapha appeared at church beside Maribel and did not leave her alone even to light a candle. Lord Edric's black carriage passed the Seldo farm one afternoon without stopping. That evening, Tomas Reed found Elias behind the mill, where the water wheel turned slow and green with moss. "You need to stop," Tomas said. Elias had been sharpening a scythe. The blade rasped against the stone. "Stop what?" "Don't play stupid. You're bad at it." Elias kept sharpening. Tomas crouched beside him. He was usually all grin and restless limbs, but now his face was drawn tight. "My uncle works the lower stables at the hall." He heard 2 guards talking. The stone paused. "What guards?" "Brandt and Ulwen." Elias knew Brandt by sight, a broad man with a flattened nose and no habit of smiling. Ulwen was younger, narrow-eyed, always chewing fennel. "What did they say?" Elias asked. Tomas looked toward the mill path, then back. "They said Lord Edric wants a name." The name of the field rat sniffing around his daughter. Elias's fingers tightened around the scythe stone. "Tomas. No, listen to me. This isn't a song. This isn't some sweet little secret where everyone sighs and looks away. Men like Edric Aster don't get embarrassed. They get even. He doesn't know it's me. Not yet. The water wheel groaned. Somewhere inside the mill, old Bram cursed at a jammed gear. Tomas lowered his voice. Leave Lowmere for a while. And go where? My cousin in Marowak needs harvest hands. It's 3 days east. I can get you a place on a grain cart tomorrow morning. Elias stared at him. Tomorrow morning. The words opened before him like a road. A real one. He could leave before Edric knew. Work elsewhere. Send coin back to Mary. Let time cool whatever suspicion had begun to burn around him. And Maribel would wait in the orchard, thinking he had abandoned her. No, he said. Tomas exhaled through his teeth. You are the worst kind of idiot. I need to see her. You need to stay breathing. I need to warn her. Warn her of what? Her own father. Yes. Tomas stood and dragged both hands through his hair. She'll be guarded. I'll find a way. You'll find trouble. Elias rose too, anger flaring because fear had nowhere else to go. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, Tomas snapped. You love her. Fine. Beautiful. Terrible. But she sleeps under her father's roof, and you sleep under one that wouldn't stop a determined goat. Guess which one of you pays first? Elias looked away. That landed because it was true. Tomas softened. Elias. I'm not mocking you. I'm trying to keep you from becoming a story people whisper over ale. For a moment, Elias saw himself as Tomas did, not as a lover fighting fate, but as a farm boy standing in the path of a carriage and calling it courage. Still, he said, I'm going tonight. Tomas shut his eyes. Of course you are. At dusk, Elias went to the chapel. The orchard seemed different, though nothing had changed. The trees twisted against a copper sky. The grass stirred around his boots. The chapel's broken windows caught the fading light and gave nothing back. Maribel was not there. He waited. A hare moved through the weeds near the wall. An owl called from somewhere beyond the road. The town bells rang once, then again, marking the hour. Still, she did not come. Elias checked beneath the loose stone. No note. He told himself to leave. He told himself that Tomas was right, that Mary's cough was worsening, that one more meeting was not worth the risk. He told himself many sensible things, and each one failed. Then, near full dark, he heard footsteps. Maribel stepped from between the trees in a grey cloak, hood drawn low. Behind her came no servant, no guard, no companion. Elias crossed the distance between them too quickly. You shouldn't be alone. Her laugh was breathless. That is usually your role. Maribel, your father suspects. I know. The answer struck him silent. She pushed back her hood. Her face looked pale in the dim orchard, but her eyes were steady. He asked me today whether I believed affection could make a person forget their station, she said. Then he watched my face as if he had set a trap and wanted to hear it close. What did you say? I said affection seemed to make men forget kindness more often than station. Despite everything, Elias almost smiled. That was dangerous. Yes. Why did you come? Because I had to see you before they made it impossible. The word before hung there. Elias looked toward the road hidden beyond the chapel. Come with me. He had not planned to say it. Or perhaps he had been planning it from the first night and only now found the nerve. Maribel stared at him. Tomas knows a cart leaving for Merowick, Elias said. Tomorrow morning. Harvest work. We could be gone before sunrise. My father would send riders. Then we leave tonight. My absence would be known before dawn. Then we go faster. She stepped back, not from him, but from the size of it. Elias. I know it's foolish. It's more than foolish. Then say no. She looked at him with pain gathering slowly in her expression. He understood before she spoke. The orchard did not vanish. The world did not split. There was only Maribel standing beneath an apple tree, unable to follow him into a life she had dreamed of but never touched. My father would punish everyone who helped us, she said. Your mother. Tomas. The cart driver. Any farmer who gave us bread. He would not need to catch us to hurt us. Elias swallowed. I hate him, he said. She closed her eyes. I don't know how to hate him enough. That is another prison. A wind came through the orchard, shaking loose a few pale blossoms. They drifted around them, soft and useless. Elias took both her hands. Then what do we do? Maribel's fingers curled around his. We wait. For what? For him to believe he has frightened me into obedience. And then? I don't know. The answer should have angered him. Instead, it made him ache. She was not careless. She was trapped inside consequences larger than either of them. He drew her close. They stayed that way for a long time. No plans. No brave declarations. Just the warmth of another body in the cooling dark. When they finally kissed, it was not like the first kiss in the rain. That one had been discovery. This was defiance. This was fear finding flame. This was both of them understanding that the world had noticed them and still, for one more stolen hour, refusing to step apart. Neither saw the rider on the far hill. He sat beneath the black shape of a yew tree, still enough to be mistaken for part of the night. His horse stamped once, but softly. The rider wore no crest. No silver buckle. Nothing that would catch the moon. His name was Captain Garin Pike, and he had served Lord Edric Aster for 19 years. He watched the boy's hand move to the princess's hair. He watched Maribel press her face against the boy's shoulder. He watched long enough to remove any doubt. Then he turned his horse toward Aster Hall. By the time Maribel pulled away from Elias, the rider was already gone. I should return, she whispered. I'll walk near the road. No. Too dangerous. I don't like you going alone. I know the garden gate. That doesn't make me like it. She touched his cheek. Elias. He leaned into her palm before he could stop himself. She studied him as though trying to memorize not his face, but the feeling of being allowed to look at it. I will come again, she said. Don't promise if you can't. I will come again. He wanted to believe her so badly that he did. Maribel drew up her hood and left through the trees. Elias waited until the orchard swallowed her footsteps. Then he stayed a little longer, because leaving the place where she had stood felt like losing her sooner than necessary. When he finally returned home, the moon had risen high and white over the mudfields. Mary was awake. She sat at the table with a candle burned low beside her and Elias's father's old knife in front of her. She had used it to cut twine, pare apples, clean fish, and once, years ago, frighten off a drunk who had mistaken poverty for weakness. She did not ask where he had been. That frightened him more than a question would have. Mother. Mary looked up. There was a man by the north fence after sundown, she said. Not from town. Elias went cold. What did he want? He said he was lost. Was he? No. The farmhouse seemed to shrink around them. Mary pushed the knife toward him. Take this when you go out. I'm not going out again tonight. I know, she said. Take it anyway. Elias sat across from her. The candle flame bent in a draft from the window. I can still leave, he said, though he did not know whether he meant it. Mary's face softened, and that softness nearly broke him. Yes, she said. You can. But not without her. Mary looked down at her hands. They were strong hands, scarred from years of holding things together. I once thought love was proved by staying, she said. Then your father died, and I learned love can be 1,000 things. Staying. Leaving. Lying. Telling the truth too late. Carrying water. Keeping quiet. Calling out where no one answers. The last words unsettled him, though he could not have said why. She rose slowly and kissed his forehead. Sleep, she said. Morning will be cruel enough without your help. Elias lay awake long after the candle went out. He listened to Mary's cough in the next room, the wind in the roof gaps, the goats shifting in their pen, the old house complaining quietly to itself. Beneath all of it, he kept hearing Maribel's voice. I will come again. At Aster Hall, Maribel entered through the east garden gate with mud at the hem of her cloak. She moved quickly through the kitchen passage, past cooling ovens and hanging copper pans, then up the servants' stair where the walls were narrow and undecorated. Twice she stopped to listen. Twice she heard nothing but the house settling. By the time she reached her room, she had almost convinced herself she had succeeded. Then she opened the door. Her father stood by the window. Lord Edric Aster did not turn at once. He looked out over Lowmere, where scattered lanterns burned below like small, disobedient stars. Maribel's hand remained on the door latch. Father, she said. Only then did he turn. He was a tall man, spare rather than broad, with iron grey hair tied neatly at the back of his neck. His clothes were dark, severe, immaculate. He had given Maribel her eyes, though in him their warmth had hardened into something polished and unreadable. You are late, he said. I was walking. In the garden. Yes. Alone. Yes. The lie stood between them, poorly dressed. Edric approached her. He did not raise his voice. He rarely did. Anger, in him, did not need volume. There is mud on your cloak. The lower path is wet. An apple blossom in your hair. Maribel's breath caught. Her father reached out and plucked a pale petal from one dark strand. He held it between his fingers, examining it with mild interest. The garden trees have not flowered yet, he said. Maribel said nothing. Edric let the petal fall. For one moment, she thought he would shout. He did not. His silence was far worse. Instead, he smiled faintly. Not kindly. Go to bed, he said. The command was so ordinary that it frightened her more than shouting would have. Father! Go to bed, Maribel. She obeyed because she did not know what else to do. Edric kissed her forehead as she passed him. His lips were cold. When the door closed behind him, Maribel stood in the center of her room, unable to move. She looked toward the vent high on the far wall, where a soft breath of air entered from the old passages beneath the hall. She had never given it thought. It was only part of the room, a square of carved iron painted cream, clean and harmless. She undressed slowly, folded her cloak to hide the mud, and sat on the edge of her bed until morning began to pale the windows. Below her, deep in the stone body of Aster Hall, there were older rooms that no guest had seen in decades. Their doors were thick. Their locks had not rusted because servants were paid to oil them. Lord Edric walked there before dawn with Captain Garin Pike beside him. Neither man spoke until they reached the lowest corridor, where the air turned cold and mineral damp. "There is no need for scandal," Edric said at last. Garin inclined his head. "No, my lord. No accusation. No public correction. No sermon. My daughter is young. To challenge her directly would only sharpen the attachment." "Yes, my lord." Edric stopped before a narrow iron door. "She must believe the boy chose to leave." Garin's face remained still. "And the boy?" he asked. Edric looked at the door as if considering a matter of household repair. "The boy must learn the cost of being remembered." Then he continued down the corridor, his footsteps clean and measured over the old stone.